Just testing to see if my microphone works. Okay, had some microphone difficulties, but we're back now. I missed out on a lot there. There was a ding-dong battle between the real DTM and King David. Prastry Angel trying to overtake Stanza. Rika crashing out of the race. Boys spinning, Near spinning, the Chaos Druid spinning, Den Thibs spinning, and Game Freaks spinning as well. And I think there isn't anyone who hasn't seen any action this race, and now there's a safety car because Rika has retired. So we're back in business. This is going to be the last lap of the safety car. Right now it stands in the lead, who overtook Prastry, who started P2, and Game Freaks, who started pole position, had a bit of a spin, lost some time, had to box, and is down in P5 now. And the real DTM and King David overtaking each other, taking turns each lap, and they're fighting for the last spot on the podium. But now that there's been a safety car, all the cars are bunched up together, so that's going to be there's going to be a big old battle, as everyone has box stands, has actually gone for the hard compound of tires. He's going to be trying to go to the end of the race, as Near gets a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. But we're just waiting for the safety car restart, and Stanza leads us away on the hard compound of tires, as it looks like King David actually gets a pretty good restart. He's going to try go around the outside. Real DTM leaves a space. He gets boxed in by Prastry. Is King David going to go all the way around the outside, which turns to the inside? He actually is. And Real DTM is going to fight back, though. He's going to have the inside line, but he isn't as fast on the straights. He goes down the inside. He actually hits into the back of Prastry, and I don't know if he's broken a wing. King David goes wide, and Game Freaks is just watching all of this unfold. So the real DTM hit into the back of Prastry. I don't know if he has wing damage, but King David goes down the inside of Real DTM. Real DTM still battling, but I think he might have wing damage. He's going a bit slow in the corners. So King David up into P3 now, with Real DTM right behind him in P4. But we'll see if Game Freaks overtakes him. He most likely has wing damage, as Game Freaks just sitting in the slipstream, waiting for this next straight maybe, as the real DTM doesn't seem too slow in the corners, so maybe he doesn't have wing damage. He's only 4/10 off of the King David, who is on the very edge of being outside of a second of Prastry. So if he wants that DRS, he's going to have to speed things along now, as Prastry is 5/10 off of Stanza, he's on the one stop now. So Prastry is going to have to make an extra stop compared to Stanza, but Stanza is on the hard compound tires, which are very slow around this track. So That's our first lap of the safety car restart. Game Freaks looking down the inside, thinks better of it. He's a bit too far away to go for a bit of a dive bomb. So right now Stanza in first, Prashri second, and King David taking the last spot on the podium. So we have Real DTM right behind and Game Freaks as well, all trying to get on the podium, and Den Thibs on quite old soft compound tires also trying to get into the mix. But going down into this corner, Game Freaks has a bit of a moment, and that's lost him some time, and now Den Thibs is right on the back of him as he's really struggling in those sequence of corners in the second sector. He's actually outside of a second now, but if he can get back within that gap by next lap, he'll have the DRS, and right now he is within 9/10, maybe using a bit of the overtake. King David only 4/10 off of Prashri, who surprisingly isn't going quite as faster than Stanza, who's on the hard compound tires. So Stanza showing some great pace, even though Prashri is on the softer compound of tires. He can't seem to overtake him, but maybe with the power of the DRS next lap, he'll be able to overtake him. So he's 3/10 off now, might use a bit of the overtake to try and overtake Stanza down into turn 1. No, he stays in the slipstream. He's going to wait for the DRS, and there is a detection point as he has a little look up the inside. There is a detection point now, so have DRS for this straight, and we'll see what he can do with it. Maybe he can overtake Stanza on hard tires, as that's a yellow flag for Boy, who is now 34 seconds off the Chaos Druid, and King David tries to go around the outside there, but goes a bit too deep and a bit too wide, so Prashri is going to keep the position, and the Real DTM now only 4/10 off of King David, so he might be looking for a move. Den Thibs right on the edge of DRS of Game Freaks, but he is on the stop, so he's going to have a bit of pace, but they will die off in about 3 laps, and he'll have to box for a new set of either mediums or hards to go to the end. But Stanza still didn't have the DRS. Prashri's looking up the inside, but I don't think he's using too much ERS here. He might just be waiting for Stanza to use all of his ERS, and then he's going to make the move, as I think Boy, yeah, he is essentially out of this race, and he's just retired in the pit lane. Den Thibs has actually spun off on his tires. He might have touched the curb on the inside, which can send you flying, but Prashri now on this DRS straight. Let's see what he can do. Stanza has probably used a lot of his overtake button, and Prashri is going to have a lot more straight line speed. Let's see, as he's going to go down the inside now into turn 1 for the lead of the race on lap 12, and he makes the move stick. With Stanza on the hard compound tires, it was going to be hard to fight back, but at least he doesn't have to make another pit stop. So right now Prashri in front. Stanza might be looking for a move as he gets quite close there, 10.5 off of Prashri. So right now King David also getting a bit up close and personal now. He's going to be looking to overtake Stanza to stick with Prashri, who is also on the 2 stop with King David, and the Real DTM and Game Freaks. Everyone apart from Stanza, who has actually just spun, is on the 2 stop, I was about to say, and he's trying to get it back on track, but he's lucky he's on the hard compound tires now, because if he had to spin, or if he spun and had to stop again, he would have absolutely no chance in this race. But he is on the hard compound tires. He's going to lose a lot of time, but the guys in front are going to lose even more time in the pit lane, but are going to be much faster at the end of the race. So that spin has really not helped out Stanza's race, but he still has a chance of winning this, because he is 1 pit stop ahead of these guys. So spin for Stanza really sets him back, but he still has a good chance of winning. Coming back to the front, King David 7/10 off of Prashri, so Prashri trying to pull out a bit of a lead, but you can just see there 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. He's going to go around the outside. He's going to look around the outside. Real DTM goes for a bit of an ambitious move there and hits into the back of King David, but you can see the power of the DRS on this track. He caught him by 7/10 and had a look around the outside, and the Real DTM crashed into the back of him, as the Real DTM and Game Freaks going at it, but the real DTM is really lucky not to have wing damage in this race, as King David actually overtakes Prastry in quite an unconventional spot in the track. So King David, from P4 I think it was, or maybe even P5, has moved up to P1 and takes the lead of this race ahead of Prastry, who makes a mistake and is now 6/10 behind. So King David, a great move. I didn't get to see it because we were looking at Real DTM, who could have wing damage because Game Freaks is right on the back of him, but I think he's actually gotten away with it and has no wing damage. Is going to continue on in this stint, so very lucky for him. That's the second time that he's hit into the back of someone. But Prastry now going to be looking for the overtake on King David, as I think he might have turned the DRS off a bit early there, so he didn't have to take him down into the last corner. But we'll see now on the main straight, what's he going to do? He's going to go down the inside now. He's going to be trying to take the lead as Game Freaks in the background tries to go around the outside. Prastry makes the move stick before the corner, and Game Freaks isn't able to overtake Real DTM, as Real DTM, even with one lap fresher tires, is going a little bit faster. But Game Freaks is going to try another move. He's going to try have a look around down the inside. Real DTM goes a bit wide. King David and Prastry side by side. Is Prastry going to give up this corner again? No, he's not. They go side by side, but he has to give up in that corner because he could not handle that. Has a bit of a lock up there as he tries to go around the outside. King David down the inside, he loses a position. He's gonna go, oh, he isn't gonna go around the outside, so Prastry takes P1 back from King David, but King David gonna have the DRS now. Let's see what he can do. He's gonna overtake him again. This is about the fourth overtake this lap, I think. And King David retakes the lead. Game Freaks takes P3 from the Real DTM, last spot on the podium. And these four drivers are making an absolutely excellent battle for the season opener of SRL Season 4. So here we go. King David in the lead. No DRS on this straight. Prastry's probably going to stay behind and get DRS on the next straight and try overtake there. Let's see. He's right behind him, just 3/10 behind. They're all within 3/10 of each other, as King David makes a dummy to the pit lane, and no one follows him through with that. He's only on 7 lap old mediums. So it looks like, oh, could it be 3 wide into turn 1? No, Game Freaks backs out. Prastry has a look down the inside, doesn't make the move stick. King David keeps it around the outside. Game Freaks could get a better exit than Prastry. Let's see what he can do, as Prastry is quite close to King David. He's going to have a look around the outside, can't make a stick, he's not fully alongside. Game Freaks is going to try go down the inside. Is he going to overtake into this corner? I think he's going to have to let him through. And it's side by side, and they did not give each other any space. Game Freaks getting a lot of wheel spin. Real DTM right on the back of him, and they went side by side into that corner, no fear, even though the chances of going off of the track and ending your race were so high. They both went at it. So Game Freaks, Prastry, King David all in a massive battle, with Real DTM looking to profit if any of as these guys hold each other up. And right now Prastry in P3 or P2 with Game Freaks behind them. King David in the lead. That little battle between Game Freaks and Prastry gained King David a little bit of time, but Prastry once again, he's 3/10 off King David. He has the slipstream, he has the ERS, and he might be looking for another move down into turn 1 once again. This could be the 5 millionth overtake within just like 4 laps. So Prastry with the DRS now, what is he going to do? King David defends the inside. He knows it's the better line for the corner. Prastry actually makes it to the inside. He's going to brake late, and he makes the move sticks. Game Freaks right behind. Is he going to try and overtake King David? And King David could lose 2 positions here, but King David might be using a lot of his ERS try and overtake Prastry here. And he's trying to go around the outside. He makes a stick, very late braking. No, he doesn't. He goes too wide. Game Freaks does the same thing as last lap, but he doesn't go side by side, and was with King David instead. So Prastry actually makes the move stick now, and he's up into P1. King David right behind him P2, and Game Freaks and Real DTM just trying to get into that battle. Game Freak's having a few opportunities but not making them work, and the real DTM just waiting for the right opportunity. One of these guys is going to have to go for the undercut, because whoever goes for the undercut first is going to gain a massive amount of time. But here we go on the non-DRS straight. We have them all within about 4/10 of each other, apart from King David. They're going to try stick behind each other on here. If I was King David in this moment, I would open the DRS, but I wouldn't overtake down to turn 1. I'd wait for the next straight, because then Prashri wouldn't be getting DRS anytime soon, apart from in the middle of Sector 2. Coming onto the DRS straight now, the smallest gap is between Game Freaks and King David. So let's see, is Game Freak's going to go for the overtake? No, he's too far away. Is King David's most likely using a decent amount of the ERS? As Real DTM has a look up the inside, doesn't make it work. Game Freak's keeping P3. He is on 1 lap older mediums, but King David is going to have the DRS for this next straight, and he's not close enough to make the overtake work. So right now, Prashri has held the lead for almost a full lap, which, well, it's out of this world in this race. You don't hold the lead for more than 1 DRS straight, as we've seen in the past couple of laps. But King David's 7/10 away from Prashri. He's losing a bit of time to Prashri, maybe a bit higher on tire wear, as Prashri is actually pulling away, and if he can pull out of this DRS, that's really going to help his race efforts. So right now, not too many overtakes, because the gaps are a little too big for anyone to make a move down the inside and possibly around the outside. As you can see, these guys are taking a very wide line on that corner, because they do not want to get anywhere near that curb, as we've already seen Den, Thibs and Game Freaks and Near, I think, all spinning on that curb. So right now, King David 8.5 tenths off of Prashri. Prashri keeps up this pace, but he actually is going into the pit lane for the undercut. King David doesn't follow him through, but Game Freaks and Real DTM do. So King David thinks, well, if they all pit, they're going to be battling, right? That's going to hold them up. So maybe I can make this overcut work, but he can't extend these tires for more than 1 lap if he wants to win this race. Unless he's going to try and go onto soft tires, he's going to have to extend this stint by another 3 laps, which is very big, as Den Thibs has once again spun in the second sector and is almost lapped, but we won't talk about that. So King David is going to try. King David is going to try and make the overcut work, and Game Freaks, Real DTM and Prashri all right beside each other. They're going to be battling away, and if these guys even think about going side by side, King David could have this race in the bag. Because if these guys hold each other up enough, even though they have 10 lap fresher tires, they could hold each other up so much that King David could win this race. So let's see, is Game Freak's going to try and go for the move? He does have the DRS on Prashri. This isn't going to help his race efforts, as King David could be on the better strategy, but it doesn't really look like they're holding each other up too much. It looks like they didn't go side by side there, so they're working together to try and negate King David's overcut, and King David is going to stay out another lap. So that has almost fully confirmed that he is going to be staying out and trying to extend it to possibly even lap 21 or possibly 20 to go onto the soft compound tires, but that is going to give him a huge pace advantage, as Game Freaks is going to go up the inside. He makes the move stick before the corner, so Game Freaks up into what is essentially P1 now. As you can see, the gap to the leader is 20 seconds. You lose about 23 seconds in the pit lane, so King David already losing massive amounts of time. And guess who we've all forgotten about? It's Stanza, who's in P2 on the hard compound tires, 7 seconds up the road. This could be massive for Stanza. If he makes this strategy work, he will look like an absolute genius. Even though he spun in this race, he could still win this race, and even if he doesn't win this race, he's almost guaranteed a top 5. So King David on the overcut, all these guys battling away Game Freak's pulling out a little bit of a lead on Prastry here, and if he can break that DRS, he is almost guaranteed the win at this point. But no, Prastry has a DRS for the straight, and he gains about 5 tenths, almost 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, yes. 5 tenths in one straight. So the power of DRS is very strong, and there's 3 zones, so it's very, very difficult to actually overtake or pull away on this track, as Prastry is setting purple sectors, going faster than Game Freaks, and we'll see what kind of lap time Prastry actually sets here. I think it's going to be quite a quick one, and possibly fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Game Freaks comes across the line, he sets the fastest lap, and Prastry is actually going slower, so you can see Game Freaks with the fastest lap. He's putting out a bit of a lead on Prastry, maybe, even though he's only 4 tenths behind. The gap is really going up and down. King David staying out another lap. So right now, the gap between Game Freaks and King David is 18.7 seconds. So if King David boxes this lap with soft compound tires, he's going to have to gain about 8 seconds to Game Freaks, and then he'll have to overtake Real DTM, Prastry and Game Freaks and Stanza to win this race. He's going to be 10 seconds off of Stanza, and no matter what compounded tire you have, I don't think you can gain 10 seconds in 9 laps, unless he is pushing to the absolute limit and is able to keep it on the track. So right now we can see looks like Game Freaks is actually a little bit stronger in the second sector as he keeps pulling away, and Prastry coming right back from 7 tenths to 4 tenths each lap with the power of the DRS. So Prastry right behind, and the person set to win this race, it looks like Stanza, possibly, but actually I take that back. Game Freaks is only 5 seconds off. He has 10 lap pressure tires. He is on softer tires. I don't think Stanza is going to win this race, but he most likely will get P5 as King David into pit lane onto the soft tires as predicted. Goes down into P5. We'll see what the gap is between himself and the Real DTM. 4 seconds. Oh, so it's only 4.3 seconds. King David could make this work on the soft tires if he can gain 4.3 seconds, and these guys, if they go side by side, they'll hold each other up. King David will gain even more time, but King David actually has a penalty now, a 3-second time penalty, so that's really going to complicate things for him, and he might not be able to win this race because of that, because even if he overtakes these guys, he has to pull out a 3-second lead to be ahead of these guys. Right now, gap between Game Freaks and Stanza, 4.7 seconds, so gaining by about 5 tenths a lap. If he keeps this up, he'll be about 5 tenths off on the final lap, so he needs to go a little faster now if he wants this win. And Stanza's strategy not looking too bad right now, but if I had to guess, Game Freak is going to be all over the back of Stanza about 3 laps from the end, as even though Stanza is on the hards do eventually lose their grip. So as you can see, King David gaining 7 tenths on his outlap, so who knows, maybe he could pull out a 3-second lead on Game Freaks. He's gained a second this lap, and he hasn't even finished his lap yet. He has now, he's come across the line, he's gained a second. If he's gaining a second lap, I've actually missed that. Prastry has gone down the inside of Game Freaks now, and he's going to take the lead. The Real DTM losing a bit of time. He's 9 tenths off, nearly, he's a second off now. Game Freaks looking up the inside. Real DTM struggling to stay in the DRS right now, and King David just gaining and gaining and gaining on these guys. We'll see what he can do, but Prastry is now 3 seconds off of Stanza, so he's definitely going to catch him by the end of the race, if I had to guess. So there you go, King David gaining almost another, it's probably going to be a second by the end of this lap. King David gaining an ungodly amount of time, and King David could be set to win this race if he didn't have that 3-second time penalty. It would have made it a lot easier for himself, but he's going to try anyways, because that's all he can do right now. Real DTM 7/10 off of Game Freaks. He's going to go down the inside of Prastry. King David saying the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Game Freaks getting ahead of Prastry before the corner. So Game Freaks up into what is essentially P1 now, as there's a 1.8 seconds gap between himself and Stanza, so he's definitely going to be able to overtake that. King David now looking right, nearly almost on the back of Real DTM now. Only 2 seconds off. He could have DRS by the end of this lap as Nier gets a 3-second time penalty. Game Freak's now inside the DRS zone of Stanza, so he's going to get the DRS on this next main straight. So looks like Prashri won't be looking for the overtake on that straight. But Real DTM getting a little closer to Prashri now, making his life a little easier. So King David now 1.5 seconds off of the Real DTM. He'll be getting DRS quite soon now, as Game Freaks has the DRS on the stanza, and I think he'll be looking for the overtake now. Let's see. He hasn't got the straight line speed. Real DTM having a little look up the inside, tries to make it into a move, can't make it stick, as Game Freaks actually goes around the outside, and he's actually hit into Stanza, or Stanza's hit into Game Freaks, and he's gone off the track. I don't know if he's out of this Grand Prix. No, he probably has some wing damage though, although it doesn't even look like he does. But Stanza has hit into Game Freaks, who went around the outside in an unusual spot, and that has ruined Stanza's race. He's going to be coming home in P5 at the very best. So Stanza went from a possible podium all the way down to P5, but that might have happened even without the spin, because everyone is on either 5-lap-old mediums or 2-lap-old softs, and he's on 16-lap-old medium or hard compound tires. So yeah, Stanza spun there, and that's going to be P5 at best for him, as Nier's actually catching up to him, but I think he has a good few penalties. No, he only has 3 seconds, so possibly P6 for Stanza. But here we go, the main battle that we're looking at, the top 4 all back together, and King David on the soft compound tires. That's really gonna help him out. He's almost in the DRS of the Real DTM. He's going to be pushing very hard, because once he gets within that DRS, it's going to be quite easy to catch, but his tires are going to be a little bit slower coming towards the 6-lap mark, so he's going to have to make these moves soon enough if he wants to make them stick. Stanza's actually going into pit lane. I think he's going to box for fresh soft compound tires and try to go for the fastest lap maybe. But here we go, Real DTM only 3/10 off of Prastry. His red light actually flashing there, so he's under 10% ERS. He has not got anything left in the tank at this stage, as King David has now gotten into the DRS, and with these soft compound tires he shouldn't have too hard a time overtaking these guys. But we'll see what happens. As we saw before, people gaining 7/10 on the straight with DRS, but will we see it again? Because Real DTM also has DRS. So Game Freaks, once again, just like he did in Russia, but it's a bit different, the circumstances. He's only got a 4/10 gap instead of a 3-second gap. He's controlling this race, staying in P1, keeping it consistent, even though he spun towards the early part of this race. But if I told him that he was going to spin and had a chance at winning this race, I don't think he would mind the spin. So P1 for Game Freaks right now, holding Prastry at bay, but Prastry's got to be looking for a move soon enough, and we'll see if he goes for it down to turn 1. I don't know if he's close enough. Is he? Yes, he's going to try go down the inside. Game Freaks, can he stick it around the outside? Does he have the grip? They're still side by side. It looks like Game Freak's going to keep the position. But who's going to have DRS? It looks like Prastry's going to have DRS on Game Freaks. So down into turn 1 is Prastry, who takes the lead. Real DTM once again just tapping the back of Game Freaks. That's the 4th time, if I'm not mistaken, that he's hitting to the back of a car. King David, with all these people holding each other up, King David only 5 tenths off now with the soft tires, but they are 4 laps old. They're going to start dying soon. So he needs to get a move on. So Prastry takes the lead. His first race in SRL, taking the lead and having a good chance of winning the race. But we still have 3.5 laps left. There's ages to go in this race. And Game Freaks is right on the back of Prastry. And Real DTM is right on the back of Game Freaks. And King David is right there with Real DTM. So King David, even though he has the soft tires, it doesn't really look like overtaking as easy is going to be as easy as he thought it was, as he goes a bit wide coming out of that corner. So Prastry 5-10 lead. King David actually falls out of the DRS. He's 1 second now, so I don't even know if he'll get DRS on the straight. We can see coming across the DRS line, he actually doesn't. So King David loses DRS. Real DTM's light still flashing. He has absolutely no ERS left, as has a little look up the inside as Game Freaks leaves a little bit of space, but he's not going to make the move stick. Game Freaks with the DRS, he's only 2 tenths off, and the DRS wasn't even enabled, but now it is, so he doesn't get close enough yet, but he's right on the back. I think he might be saving up his ERS and might launch an attack on the very last lap of the race, but we will see. King David falls out of the DRS, so his tires already losing grip. Estanza goes on to soft tires and makes it work. It gets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so he's going to get at least 1 extra point after this race. So Game Freaks saving up his ERS. If I had to guess, we can actually check now. He has 27% using absolutely none of it on this straight. Will he use any of it on the next straight? That will show us if he is actually saving it up. I think he should be, at least if he wants to make this move stick on Prastry. But right behind him he is Real DTM, and he's actually not saving ERS. He's using a bit of it on each exit because he knows that the Real DTM right behind, he's only on 6%, is pushing absolute crazy, just trying to overtake Game Freaks, as King David actually gets back into the DRS, but I think he's going to be coming home in P4 mainly because of that penalty. But Game Freaks right behind Prastry. We can actually look how much ERS Prastry has. He has about 25%, and using a bit of it here, using 5% down to 20%, and they both have quite equal ERS. So there's that, and the advantage that Prastry just got there because of the lap car, he actually got DRS on that straight. So they both have similar ERS to each other, and it's just going to be both of them pushing all out on this lap and the very final lap to see who comes home in first place. And Real DTM, he's really just been stuck behind these two, having a couple of chances here and there, but just not being able to overtake them, as Prastry keeps ahead on this straight. There's a 5/10 difference. There's going to be no DRS on this next straight, but coming past these this corner and then the final corner, and then we will be on the final lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix SRL season opener. So here we go, down into the last corner. We're going to be getting DRS on the next straight, and the straight after that, and the straight after that, and those are going to be 3 DRS zones left. We'll see what Game Freaks, Real DTM and King David can do, although maybe not King David, as Game Freaks go around the outside. Can he make the move stick? Prastry has the inside line, which is much better on that corner. Game Freaks giving it all he's got. He can't make the move stick. He will have DRS for the straight. Prastry's red light flashing now. He has absolutely nothing left, and it looks like Game Freaks didn't open his DRS there. I don't know why he's done that, but he didn't open his DRS there, maybe because he wants the DRS on this final straight so that Prastry gets absolutely nothing, because this is going to be the last DRS straight that we're coming up onto now. So Here we go, Prastry in P1, Game Freaks P2, Real DTM P3. What is going to happen on this straight? There's a bit of a lockup there for Prastry. And here we go, Game Freaks with the DRS and the ERS. You'd have to assume, is he close enough? No, he's not. He doesn't. Even with the power of the DRS, he is not close enough to gain the lead off of Prastry. 3/10 is the difference. He's going to have to absolutely dump all of his ERS on this last straight. Can he overtake Prastry going down into the very final corner of the final lap of the first Grand Prix, the opener for SRL Season 4? It looks like he's not going to be close enough. Its red light is flashing. He has absolutely no ERS left. And Prastry, his first race in SRL, is going to take the win in the Season 4 SRL opener. Game Freaks in P2, Real DTM right behind them. Podium, with the podium, Game Freaks on the podium, Real DTM on the podium. Two people I expected on the podium, but Prastry, first race in SRL, is going to take home P1. King David in P4, Near in P5, Stanza in P6 with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Chaos Druid being lapped and is in P7. Den Thibs down in P8 but still gets points. Boy and Rika, two people new to this league who sadly DNF'd, but they're going to be hoping for a better result next race. But there you go, Prastry P1 in his first race in SRL and pole position. The only thing that could have topped off that weekend would have been a fastest lap, but Stanza stole it from him. So, there you go. There is the podium. I'll just give you a second to just take that in. Well, there you go. That is the classification for the season opener of SRL Season 4. And I hope you all have a good day. See ya.